Well, hello. This is Jonathan Steelflex here. You are listening to an episode of Star Wars with Steelflex. Pretty cool name, I know. Today's episode, I really wanted to talk about the Ahsoka show and what we know about it. This episode's going to contain a talk about new characters and relationships that we're going to be seeing. We're also going to be discussing Ahsoka's impact on the Star Wars universe and kind of discuss how that's going to affect the events that happen in the show. And we're also going to talk about some responsible story predictions, possibly some speculations on what we think could happen or who we might bump into along the way. This is Jonathan. Thank you for listening, and let's start the episode. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and jump straight into it. So at the top of the show, we are talking about characters that we know will be in the Ahsoka TV show, or streaming show, I should say. So let's go ahead and let's talk about the cast. Let's see who's in it, or at least character-wise. This is from trailers. So we have Ahsoka, of course, Ahsoka Tano. We have Sabine Wren, heavily featured in a lot of the trailers that we've seen. Potentially being an apprentice, beneath Ahsoka. What kind of apprentice? We know Sabine isn't force sensitive. At least she might not be. She didn't seem it. I mean, when watching Rebels, spoiler alert if you haven't watched, she was trying to learn how to use the Darksaber as she trained with Kanan. And when she was doing that, she was struggling, which she inevitably gave off the Darksaber to Bo-Katan, which, if you've seen further on, like Mandoverse and whatnot, you know what happens there. So, going along with that, Sabine has had a very tough situation going on. I mean, we remember what happened in Rebels with her family. And all the drama going on with all the Mandalorians and everything, how they came together, disbanded, the Night of Thousand Tears, as mentioned by Bo-Katan in the Mandalorian Season 2, I believe, or Book of Boba Fett, one of the two. I think it was Mandalorian, but, whatever. Anyways, but yeah, so Sabine's been through it for sure. So now being underneath Ahsoka's tutelage, or at one point, it's going to be dicey. It seems like a lot of the story is going in the direction of what's up with Sabine, and, although it's an Ahsoka story, there's, people say Rebels 2.0 or Season 5 or whatever. I think it's interesting. We have a lot of these characters that we're just kind of not in the know of, we saw at the end of Rebels, which takes place, before even episode 4. So we are now, of course, assuming we're around Mando timeline. I believe it's 5 years after Return of the Jedi. Around that Mandoverse timeline, whatever. So yeah, there's big span of time between those between Rebels and now. But yeah, so, and we also see in the trailer, again, spoiler if you haven't seen the trailer or whatever, this is going to be heavily probably spoiler episode. So if for whatever reason you haven't caught up with Rebels, Mando, all the stuff going on in the Mandoverse and whatnot, you might not want to listen, but whatever. But yeah, so as we see in the trailer, Sabine is seen using a lightsaber against a foe, which we'll talk about later on. But it is believed, and I'm like 90% sure, I didn't take a great look at it, it's believed to be Ezra's lightsaber, the green that he uses in Rebels. So if that's the case, again, we had to wonder, is she force sensitive? Is she not? We'll have to find out later on. And if she's not, great. If she is, that's going to be something. We'll just have to see. because of course it's been in and out on if a person that's not uh, in general force sensitive using a lightsaber, are they able to use it as well as someone that can use the force? And also, if the lightsaber isn't connected to you, we saw with the dark saber. Sorry, I'm reading a thing on my wall that says whatever. Anyways, the dark trooper. Oh my goodness, this is tough. First episode, give me a break. With the dark saber, we see that Mando, whenever he tried using it, it didn't respond to him quite well in combat. He had trouble lifting it. He was struggling. But then we see Bo-Katan, who is quite, I don't want to say smaller, but physique wise, seems smaller than Mando. But she uses it, and it's like she's using a butter knife against these guys. So I mean, it really depends on connection. And with regular lightsabers, we'll just have to see how that works. But yeah, very exciting. Whatever ends up happening. So next, we are going to go to Hera. Hera's interesting. Many people online are complaining about, oh, Hera doesn't look like a cartoon. But I mean, if that were the case, then Clone Wars Count Dooku was poorly done by Christopher Lee in Revenge of the Sith and Attack of the Clones. That's a joke, of course. No, of course, cartoon characters and live action characters shouldn't look 100% alike. Now, if they do, that's one thing, but it's whatever. But no, Hera's going to have a big role in the show. I'm very nervous as to what's going to happen with Hera. Because she's taking on that paternal role all through Rebels. But now she's, of course, a general and the leader of Ghost Squadron, and possibly further rebellion ties. Which, of course, we see in the trailer. There's discussions on if they should or shouldn't create more of a rebellion, like attack force, However, Mon Mothma and her are butting heads on it. So I feel like Hera, it's cool because Hera, on one hand, as a leader, could be very much of a political head. Maybe not very much, but she could definitely be the one speaking to Mon Mothma or the leaders of the rebellion, trying to say, hey, this is what should happen this is what's happening on the battleground. You aren't seeing this. We are. We need to deal with it like this. And like I just said, she's on the battleground. She's flying around. She's always finding herself in a battle, even though she doesn't want to, and she's trying to, save her kids and everything. Her kids being part of the Spectre crew, of course. So yeah, Hera's gonna be very interesting. I'm curious as to how she's going to play out. If she's going to because of course she's trying to warn everyone of Thrawn in the Outer Rim. But will it work out? We'll have to wait and see. Next up, we have Ezra Bridger. This is a weird one. All these are weird ones because again, we don't know what's going on, where they are, what's going to happen. We don't know. Ezra, we saw him in the trailer. I remember the first trailer that came out. There was a very tiny hologram of some person in a red jacket, and I remember seeing that, just totally blowing it off, not even thinking about who it could be. Talking to Sabine, and then later on, we see a close up on this trailer, and it's Ezra. Something odd though, of course, like I've said probably 3 or 4 times now. At the end of Rebels, we see Ezra take off with Thrawn with the Purgles, and we haven't heard from them. We don't know where they are, what they could be doing. But here we see Ezra in contact with Sabine. but why? How? What's going on? Um, it's an interesting. It's interesting to see where we're gonna go. Thinking about the series in general with Ezra, because as far as we're aware, Ezra's. Now I could be wrong. I haven't seen the finale of Rebels in a while, but if the lightsaber in Sabine's possession is Ezra's, he I mean, he'd be lost in space with Thrawn without a weapon. Of course, he has the Force, which can be used for, weaponary needs if necessary. Um, but we see Thrawn in the trailer, which we'll get back to him in a little bit, and we see him not in hologram form. Whereas here, we see we see hologram Ezra, and it makes me nervous because what are the chances that we don't see Ezra until later on? Because it's an 8-episode series. What are the chances that we see Ezra early on? What if? Because in Mando season 3, everybody was thinking, oh, Mando has to be cleansed by the waters of Mandalore. Many people thought, oh, this is going to take all 8 episodes to go do that. And then he did it in the second episode. And it was done. And then everyone was like, well, what now? So we could have a situation like that where we do find Ezra quite early in the series. Or it could be the search for Ezra. So, again, we'll just have to find out what's going on there. If he's okay. Is he alright? As Darth Vader said about good old Padme. But, yes. So let's go ahead. Let's move on. Next up, confirmed-wise, I should say, we have the new character, Baylan Skoll. Very interesting. I'm not sure how to feel about him. Obviously, because he's new, we know very little about these characters, him and his partner. However, we know that Baylan Skoll has been not hired, I guess maybe hired, but is working under the Morgan Elsbeth character, which I believed was I believe she would have died after, or not died, but just captured by the New Republic in the second season of Mando, the High Magistrate, of course. I don't remember her having a name until recent, and I saw everywhere because I thought the actor's name was Morgan. So the whole time I was wondering where all the conversation about the High Magistrate was, but here we are. But anyways, that was a long tangent. Working under her, we notice that he has a orangish lightsaber, not red, just, it's a nice orange, kind of looks a little Knights of the Old Republic style, kind of, you know what I mean? Not really, maybe so. But it's not orange, it's not red, it's like a nice blend. There have been reports, of course, I don't know about leaks, however, just cast members may be talking about it, or information given out to the public, that Baylan Skoll was a survivor, a Jedi survivor of the Great Jedi Purge, who is now turned to the dark side. More like a somewhat of a mercenary team. And I'll go ahead and throw in here with Baylan Skoll, his apprentice, assuming apprentice. She just seems younger, but we can never be sure. Shin Hati or Shin Hati, we'll find out. She, of course, is the one with the blonde hair, similar lightsaber style. But yes, they are both working under. I'm going to continue saying the High Magistrate, but working under her as mercenaries. And it is somewhat assumed that all three of them working together are going to be looking for Thrawn, maybe trying to track down where he is, or maybe Thrawn is all good, all Gucci. He's just out there. He's just found now. But yeah, we have very little that we know about them. Um, However, in the trailer, I will say, because we don't hear much from Shin. However, Balon Skull, we do hear him say something along the lines of, uh, I believe he said something, and don't quote me on this. Anakin spoke highly of you, and we are to believe that he is speaking to Ahsoka when saying this line. That being the case, he could potentially be a Jedi from the Great Purge. However, later on in the speculation area of this video, I will go into a thought that I had, which is completely ridiculous. However, we move on. Next up, of course, sorry, that was ridiculous. We'll just move on. We have Grand Admiral Thrawn. Holy crap. I don't know how to feel about Thrawn. I'm nervous. So I will say this. I have not read any Legends material, anything like that. I was born in '99, so growing up I had the movies, and I never wanted to read any of the Legend stuff because big novels were, bleh. And then the Disney acquisition of Star Wars, Lucasfilm, that took place, and I never really found any of the old books necessary because if everything now coming out is supposed to be linked together, books, comic books, movies, TV shows, all that, etc. I might as well pay attention to that because that's quote unquote real, if that makes sense. Whereas the legend stuff is just, I don't want to say fan fiction because I know there are a lot of people that do appreciate Legends material, and if you do, that's great, and if not, then more power to you. But I personally didn't get into it. I know that there's a lot of hype for the Heir to the Empire line that is not thrown out, but used in the trailer, which is, of course, the title of the novel that he features in the Legends book. However, all I have seen in just in general in Star Wars canon-wise is, of course, Rebels. And the small reference near the end of season 2 and 3 of Mandalorian, one being Ahsoka talking to the High Magistrate, and the other of Moff Gideon, of course, speaking to the Council of, what would you even call that? The First Order sympathizers? I guess what was it? The Imperial Remnant? The group of people that work for the Empire that wanted to relaunch the Empire and further on the Emperor. But that's, another story further in the timeline. But yeah, Thrawn, pretty bad guy. I know it's cool. He's a cool dude. First showing of him in live action we saw in the trailer. Kind of looks like Elon Musk. Whatever, it's fine. Doesn't matter. But yeah, very, very slow, calculating. Just he's going to keep you on your toes. He's going to see every move you make. And know how to play 4 moves ahead. And now he's stuck out in the middle of nowhere with Ezra. However, it's seeming like he's going to be coming back, and that is nerve-wracking. So, you know, we'll see where that goes. um, yeah, no, Thrawn is on the loose, and people are, of course, comparing him because nowadays social media is just about comparing everything and whatever. Saying that he's the new Thanos of the Star Wars universe, which, you can argue, you know, Thanos is the big bad, but moving down the line, now they have Kang, and, you know, the Emperor being the big bad, like, he's the top dog. Comparisons within two different genres of movies, or not even genres, just two different franchises, just people just need to leave it alone. But moving on, because this could go down a whole rabbit hole that I'm not wanting to make. So we'll go ahead and move on. We see Hu Yang, which is the, if you watch the Clone Wars, he is, of course, the droid who is voiced by David Tennant, from Doctor Who, of course. Also in Jessica Jones, if you ever watched that show. And I believe Good Omens, if I'm not mistaken. But whatever. He was the droid in the Clone Wars series that helped a bunch of Padawans in their quest to not finding the lightsaber crystal, but forming their lightsaber, as he has helped for many generations, including helping Yoda, which if that shows how old, because Yoda, of course, passed away when he was around 900. So Hu Yang helped Yoda, so that's insane. So he's going to be helping out, as we see him speaking to Ahsoka, which what's going to happen? What could it be? More speculation later on in the speculation area of the video. But yeah, just fun little help. Fun little, he could play a huge role. Every Star Wars series, I feel, needs a droid companion. And Hu Yang is, he's it. First live action Hu Yang, I believe. I believe there may have been the same type of droid as Hu Yang that we may have seen like in the background of some of the movies. However, this is the first Hu Yang. So, lovely. Next up, we have Mon Mothma. Mon Mothma has been through it. If you have seen the Andor show, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend. What a show. Mon Mothma has been put through the ringer, terrible home life, and now, of course, this is a different Mon Mothma. This is after her daughter has been given away as a bride, of course, because of their, I can't think of where she's from, but from her planet, of course. Their culture is they marry young and they live with that person for, I don't want to say life, but they're just married. And that's kind of what you have to do and you have to get over it kind of thing, which is unfortunate. However, we see Mon Mothma taking a kind of a top dog situation here. I mean, I haven't read any of the novels after episode 6, of course. I'm currently on Thrawn Ascendancy Chaos Rising, which is before episode 3, and I'm going chronologically, so I have a long way. However, I know that her and Leia have some talks about what's going to happen with the rebellion, which could be very interesting, and to see if anything like that happens in the show. We see in the trailer that Mon Mothma is talking, of course, with Hera, discussing what the New Republic needs to do. Moving up from where she was in Andor up to episode 6, where she was whatever her technical position was in Return of the Jedi, where she sadly announced that many Bothans had died, bringing information to the rebellion to blow up the Death Star too. But now she seems chill. She's back in her luxury clothing. So yeah, but I am very nervous. we felt bad for Mon Mothma the entire Andor show, and still do. However, from what I've gathered about the later on novels with Mon Mothma and Leia, spoilers if you haven't read it, and I really hope that I'm not making this up because this is what I've gathered. Mon Mothma and Leia are talking about whether or not they want to further along creating a larger rebellion fleet. Now, I can't remember which one of them were like, yes, we should make it larger, or if they were both saying, no, we shouldn't. But either way, in the end game, the rebellion's fleet didn't grow large, as we see in Mandalorian season 3 whenever oh goodness gracious, I can't think of names right now. Again, first episode. But we'll get back to it. With the big microphone in my face, it's hard to concentrate. But we have the New Republic officer, and he goes back to Coruscant to try and get some help for the Mandalorians because of the threat with thrawn kind of rising in the background, whatever. But not necessarily thrawn. Anyways, but we see him asking for help, and the New Republic guy at the desk is basically saying, hey, we don't have a lot of people. We're spread thin across the whole galaxy trying to, get rid of outlaws, blah, 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 all this stuff. So, yeah, the New Republic's spread thin, and with Hera coming to Mon Mothma saying, hey, we need to fight this, and her potentially being like, I don't know if we can. It's just, I'm nervous that some people might look against Mon Mothma. Of course, we have the point of view, the perspective of the First Order, which comes later down the line, which of course is what the Imperial Revenant coming back and trying to bring the Empire back to its glory. So it's going to be shaky. It's going to be very shaky. So yeah. And there was another person which there was a name given for this character. However, I wasn't sure if I wanted to talk about this person because this person has been very here or there about the information that's been given about them and if we should even talk about them or not. I'll go ahead and talk about it. This is from the trailer. There's a person that looks as if they're an Inquisitor. They have the red lightsabers, pure red, double-ended, with the circle attachment, which in Rebels, Inquisitors use to kind of helicopter their way out of a situation or whatever. Looks like that situation going on, and they're in all black with a helmet. The name that I've been seeing going around is Merrick. Merrick is kind of they're just an unknown. I guess I shouldn't say he, because we don't know. There's been a lot of speculation going around about who Merrick is. If Merrick just isn't their own person. I don't think we've had any voice lines or anything. So we just kind of have to go with that and just move on. But yeah, no, just double-ended red lightsaber, bad dude. And it's really worrisome. Because many people thought that the Inquisitors were kind of done after Rebels, after Return of the Jedi, moving forward. People would figure that they'd be kind of done with. But this may not be the case. Who could this character be? Again, we have the speculation later on that we'd like to talk about. Or that I'd like to talk about. It's just me here, Jonathan Steelflex. But who could it be? We'll talk about that later. But other than that, confirmed characters. I believe that is all. There were some rumors, of course, but again, speculation and whatnot like that could come later on. Oh, that's who it was. Our favorite war criminal. How could I forget? It's Chopper. Chopper, crazy, crazy droid. Very much so, just a loose cannon. And now that the Republic, for the time being, is on top of things and the Empire's gone, will we see the little homie do some murder? Hopefully not, but if so, whatever. So, but yes, other than that, confirmed character wise, I believe that is all. So I'm going to take a short break here, and after that, we'll come back to the impact that Ahsoka has made on the Star Wars universe. So yeah, transition time. Alrighty, and we are back. So to go on from our conversation earlier, we just discussed the characters that are going to be showing up in the Ahsoka show. But now I'd like to just take a few minutes to kind of talk about the impact on Ahsoka, mainly discussing how or what Ahsoka is going to face now that we're basically in a post Order 66 world. After the Jedi were all terminated, to put it truthfully. Not all of them, of course, as we're finding more and more that are surviving. Ahsoka left the Order in Clone Wars, and later shows up again in Clone Wars, and then makes her return in Rebels, and then makes another return in The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, and now here we are with the Ahsoka show, which is assumed to be taking place in the same time frame of The Mandalorian, which is cool. However, we saw from our conversation with Luke Skywalker in the Book of Boba Fett, again, spoilers, which you've been warned, so sorry, not sorry. But we see that they're talking about what a Jedi should be and all this, what's going on in the world. You knew my father. Yeah, he was cool, killed kids, no big deal. But it's interesting. I think it's interesting because this is, and sorry if you hear sirens in the background. I think they're going away now. It's a tough time for Ahsoka for many reasons. One, the Empire's gone. Ahsoka, of course, whenever she left the Jedi Order, she came back at the end of Clone Wars just to be turned on by most of her, I'll say, brothers, the clones, sadly, due to Order 66. And after she had just come back, she had just had been turned away again. She worked with Rex because some of the clones, of course, were able to not be, I'll say messed up, not be turned by the chips in their heads, or they had it removed. So Ahsoka vanishes and is found and is asked to join the rebellion. And at this point, she's not a Jedi, as she makes sure to tell everyone. Not a Jedi, just one with the Force, just traveling, trying to figure out who she is. Very similar to her after she left the Jedi Temple, trying to figure out who she was. And that's a big theme with Ahsoka. because she leaves the Jedi Order. She runs away from the clones. She tries to hide on a farm. Is found by the rebellion, even though she's trying to escape, but she wants to do what's right. And that's what a Jedi trying to help people and find the good. That's what a Jedi, partially what makes a good Jedi. I won't say that's what a good Jedi is. Not saying she's a bad Jedi, but she was truly trying to find herself. And we see in Rebels, she helps the good guys. Well, you could say the Rebels are good guys. Now, granted, you might think the Empire are good guys, which if that's the case, then you might not be a good person. I joke, of course, but so we move forward in the timeline, and we know that Ahsoka lost Ezra, and Ahsoka wanted to ask Sabine for help, which we see at the end of Rebels, which is what it looks like we're going to be opening up with in the Ahsoka show, according to the trailers that we've seen. With them going together to find Ezra, it's more of Ahsoka trying to help find the good, find her friend. Now with that, we see that she's still struggling to find her. I don't want to say find her place, but in a way it is, because she keeps not running from the good fight or from the good guys, but they find her and she wants to make things right, which has always been what Ahsoka's for. And in a way, that's kind of what the goal is of the show. She's trying to find Thrawn, she's trying to find Ezra. But looking deeper than that, I feel it's really unfortunate because Ahsoka helps out so many people. She helps out in the Clone Wars, she's helping all the people on all the worlds that have been taken over or are helpless, and she tries to do what's right, even if it defies Anakin yelling, "Snips, get over here!" And she's like, "No," classic Snips and Anakin banter. It's just she's always helping others. Of course, like I said, Clone Wars. The clones. She tried and saved many of them. Many of them. Does that make sense? Grammatically, whatever. She wants to help them, but at the same time, it's putting her at risk. She wants to help the Ghost crew and Rebels. And she's always helping others. But, and this is going to sound deep, but I mean, Ahsoka's a very deep and complex character. Ahsoka still needs to try and find herself. But in the show, it seems like she's trying to find Ezra, find Thrawn. And it's tough because she's, again, what I think, she needs help finding what's best for Ahsoka without being, I don't want to say distractions, but she had to deal with Anakin, her master, her best friend, like an older brother, turned to Darth Vader, and she had to just try and see him off. I believe on Malachor, if that's the correct planet, and correct me if I'm wrong. She's had to deal with loss. She's had to deal with so much suffering. Her entire Jedi Order fell around her, lost faith in her, even though she didn't do anything wrong. And then she had to lose them again in Order 66. Her clones, the people that she went out with every single mission, and had to see them all turn against her. The Ghost crew, she sees Kanan unfortunately die. She doesn't see it, but she's, aware of the situation. Ezra gone. Um, and then Vader dies episode 6. She comes and talks to Luke. Within that 5-year time frame, we see we could potentially, I should say, we could potentially see or hear, because she talks to Luke, she talks to Mando. She's still going by the moniker "I am no Jedi." Don't know if that's a moniker or a saying, whatever. Um, but she's still going by it. Um, and that's kind of where we're unsure of. We know Luke, of course, is going to be starting the Jedi Temple, starting it back up. However, will Ahsoka be part of that? I don't necessarily think she will be. I think she's got, the whole Ezra Sabine thing on her plate. Which brings me back to another thing. Sabine calls her master in the trailer, albeit snarky. She says master, and Ahsoka turns and looks at her like, "Wah." So it just shows within the time period of, because if I remember correctly, Ahsoka never taught Sabine how to become equipped with being a Mandalorian fighter or using a lightsaber in Rebels. So that must mean at some point, from the end of Rebels all the way to here, that at one point Ahsoka took Sabine under her tutelage and went from there. Um, so yeah, it's interesting because Ahsoka's always helping and isn't really seeming to find her own place other than to help out, which is really unfortunate because, going through all the turmoil she's been through, and she's finding a lot of young Jedi, Ezra, whenever she was with Kanan, because I believe they knew of each other, if not met before. Whenever she was she was going she was going ghost, and then she shows up in Rebels, so they must have known of each other. She then talked to Grogu in Mando season 2. So it definitely is a bunch of her trying to reach out, trying to bring the good, and maybe you can argue that that is what she's here for. Anakin was said to bring balance to the Force. Now, whether that was him, Anakin himself, or Luke, like Anakin having Luke, which I personally believe Anakin, of course, is the chosen one. He's the one to bring balance to the Force, as the prophecy once foretold. He made the turn from light to dark, and then dark to light at the end of Return of the Jedi. But along the way, Ahsoka kind of wanted to prolong, is that the word I'm looking for, the light side message to Luke, and to show him, because Luke, of course, he was light side through and through. He had the moment where he switched to dark and tried to, I don't know if kill or just defeat Vader in episode 6, looks at his hand and realizes what he's done and switches back. Not saying Luke, of course, went to the dark side, but he definitely tapped into that and realized that that's not how he should do it. He should defeat the bad, the dark, by tapping into the light and finding love and friends and family, and that's how you're gonna win. And I think Ahsoka does a great job of doing that. whether you want to call it love or friendship or just mentorship, she cares so much. She's never turned down anyone needing help or wanting help. Now, Grogu was a separate situation. She turned him to the Jedi that was to truly help him, which, of course, we saw was Luke, because the attachment of Grogu and Mando, and it's just a whole bunch of Luke, Mando, who's the real dad? It's Mando. But inevitably, Ahsoka did for the best for Grogu and turned Grogu to Luke and then back and forth, whatever. Point being, Ahsoka's always looking out for others that need help. And I really think that this series could potentially be Ahsoka trying to find her own way. Or maybe not even her own way, but just, I don't think she's going to have a conclusion in this show. If anything, I think it's going to jumpstart something big in the whole quote-unquote Mandoverse. I know a lot of people don't like that term, but for, lack thereof a better term, this New Republic TV show timeline. We'll say that, post Return of the Jedi. I don't think she'll have an ending here. Again, I think it'll kick off whatever thrawn nonsense he's going to be doing. And we're just gonna have to see, because Thrawn, of course, he said that one of the things, because of course Thrawn can see patterns, he can do all these things, like 3 moves ahead, tactical mastermind. But he always said that there was one thing that he could not understand, and that he struggles with things that he can't understand, obviously, which are very few things. But one of those things, of course, is the Force, and with the Purgles, and with Ezra, and potentially Sabine struggling with that potentially, with Ahsoka, with Shin Hati, with Balon Skull. A lot of Force users, a lot of potential Force abilities coming about in this series. And I think that's kind of where Ahsoka's, the Ahsoka series is going to go. I think, from what we've seen, I think that's where the series is going to go. Not necessarily towards Ahsoka's search for what she needs. Like Book of Boba Fett, I think did a fantastic job at showing how Boba Fett truly wanted to find himself, find family, find what was important to him. And that could be a whole different video. But I don't know if we're going to get that with this series, which if it is, that's great. But with all the tie-ins and everything, with all the characters showing up, from Rebels and from, the New Republic and moving forward, I really think that this is going to be more of a progressing that story rather than solely Ahsoka, even though it's technically the Ahsoka TV series, streaming show, whatever. But yeah, I'm gonna leave that topic there for now. I might bring it back later, just strictly based off of what I've seen. It could go either way. The most recent Star Wars shows have been showing more of people trying to find a belonging with who they're with. I think Mando and Grogu at the end of season 3 of The Mandalorian. That was a big focal point of the show. You have the Bad Batch. We saw them trying to find a home, unfortunately, to have their family taken away from them. with Omega and with Tech, unfortunately. I don't know if he's dead, but you know, let's hope not. But at the same time, I kind of want Disney to be able to kill off their characters. Um, and that's not a slight on Disney, of course. However, a lot of characters do get brought back somehow, which it's fine, but you know, I'm still waiting for the day that Mace Windu is brought back. Do I want it to happen? Not necessarily. But if it were to happen, as long as the story's there and and things are making sense, then shoot, go for it. So yeah. Well, I'm going to leave it there. But for the final section coming up in just a moment, I really want to talk about some speculation predictions of what might happen in the show. Um, I really want to preface this by saying I try not to speculate on Star Wars just because uh long story short, The Last Jedi, seeing how everybody was saying, "Oh, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. Luke's going to come back and do the thing he did in Legends," and then just absolutely went backwards, not correct. Because I at the time was one of those people. I was like, man, what if all this happens? And it didn't. I was sitting there watching. I'm like, this was so good in a different way than I expected it to be. um, I don't want to make that. I don't want to call it a mistake, but I don't want to be in that situation again where I'm thinking one thing might happen and then another thing happens. So, which of course, like a big major situation. Let's just say that. Um, but anyways, I'm going to take a break real quick. I will be back, and we'll finish off the episode with some speculation. Be back in a moment. All right, and welcome back to Star Wars with Steelflex. If you're watching this long, thank you so much for listening. I'll just say this real quick. This is my first episode that I'm recording. I really, I've wanted to do this for a long time. I've just never known how to start a podcast or any of that stuff, and I didn't want to be one of those people that's like, I have a podcast, and like everyone's just like, yeah, we know, everyone does. Um, but I wanted a Star Wars podcast that I could just kind of speak my mind and also have maybe some like-minded people listen, or just because there's a lot of Star Wars podcasters out there that make podcasts that are just, I don't want to say just negative. um but with my Star Wars, I try to be very accepting and understanding of anything that comes out, or of people's feelings on movies or shows or whatever. um but I want there to be a place where if people want to listen to some Star Wars and just listen and just enjoy it, I want that to be. I want to give people that option because I don't have that. With many of the people, I've had to stop listening to some podcasts because they've been very negative and just complain about, oh, it's lazy writing, oh my gosh, Kathleen Kennedy, and it's just upsetting. It really is. And if that is what you think, I understand. Uh, I'm not going to do that. Practically just because um, I just want to appreciate what I find enjoyable, and I want to take it in because back whenever I was a kid, again, I said I was born in 1999. After episode 3, after the Clone Wars movie, I was really like nervous about there not being any more Star Wars. Um, couldn't imagine what people that saw the original trilogy would have been thinking. After 1983, Return of the Jedi comes out, that would have been a nightmare. With all the Legends books, of course, coming out at that time, though, that's kind of better, but whatever. Um, but anyways, long story short, um, no, I just want to be happy and live positively with Star Wars. So if you hear me saying something you might not agree with, I understand. If you want to let me know in the comments, I will more than happily read it. And yeah, but for those listening, I would just like to present you an area where you can feel happy, uh, or just listen and not have to deal with negativity. Okay, I will get off my horse that is high. And this is it's time for the speculation. I was very nervous, excited for this part. However, I just want to go into it. Um, and this again, this is a way for me to get this off my chest because I don't have a bunch of people around me that watch Star Wars. So I can't really, I don't want to say vent, but like say what if this, what if this, which again I said I shouldn't, but at the same time, everyone has to crack once or twice. So I'm just gonna get off my chest. I'm doing it responsibly. I don't think any of these things are gonna happen unless I say I think they might. Um, but I'm just gonna go into it. I'm gonna try and Mad Lib quick fire these, just because there's a few, and I don't want to get too tied into it. Um, Kanan Jarrus, are we going to see you, my friend? I know there are a lot of rumors and stuff. There's rumors about anything, so I should stop saying that. Um, People are always wondering if we're gonna see flashbacks in Star Wars. I'm of the mindset of they need to be done tastefully or in a way that's not too. Because we never really had flashbacks in Star Wars. And then a few years ago, what was it? We had back to tank flashbacks with the Book of Boba Fett, where we see Boba in his repressed memories of a childhood without a father. And then we see him thinking back to his family with the Tuscan people. Um, and then we see with Grogu the unfortunate PTSD that he most likely, well, not most likely, that he suffered while the armor was banging on the, oh, what was it? Was it I believe it was the chest piece or the necklace or whatever in Mando season 3, where he essentially went back to Order 66, which very traumatizing, I'm sure. Very helpless situation. Being rescued by Keller and Beck. Shout out Jar Jar. Um, but flashbacks. Let me get back on topic. Flashbacks need to be not need to be whatever. I feel they should be done tastefully. Um, the book or not the book. The Obi-Wan series. We saw the flashback with Obi-Wan and Anakin throughout the episode, and it was a nice. It was a nice device to try and show us uh, this the lessons of and where in the mindset Vader was at that time. And we slowly learned that he had not truly learned from Obi-Wan the lessons that he was trying to teach him. Um, and then it fuels his hatred for Obi-Wan even more, which leads us to that amazing finale. Um, but, like I said, flashbacks I feel like should be done tastefully or just done in a way that's not jarring or just kind of like. And here I was thinking about this person. But with Kanan, it would be interesting because, like I said earlier, Ahsoka and Kanan, I don't believe were super close. I know that they were together in the group, just strictly based off of just being on the same team. So, with that being said, I don't know who would have the flashbacks, Um, would it be Hera? Um, would it be Ahsoka? There's all these people in the group that could potentially, you know, think back on him. However, since he's long gone at this point, um, I just think I don't necessarily think we would see Kanan. Could we hear him? Could he become one with the Force? Um, we didn't see that he, you know, so he, okay, so at the end of Rebels season three, um, whenever he died, uh, rest in peace, spoilers, he became part of the Cosmic Force as the Loth Wolf. Um, I believe it was named after him, Doom, Caleb Doom, the big wolf that helped guide Ezra later on. But will we see that again? Him in Kanan form or not? We'll have to see. Um, do I think that we might see some like wolf cats or just anything, any animals like wolf wolves or whatever? I think we might, even if it's just one. Because anytime Ahsoka's in the show, there's always some wildlife or something going on. Um, it's just like a sign of like life and happiness. Um, but with all these guys, I feel like I don't want to say disservice, but I feel like it's like, come on, he's one of you guys, like you gotta use him. So we'll see. Um, but of course, and I haven't really touched on this. The world between worlds is also kind of a big factor. Um, all the stuff going on around the advertisements and posters and stuff, we see a lot of the world between world like signs and all the circles with triangles and everything. So could we possibly see flashbacks of anyone in here? I guess I'll stick on flashbacks for just a moment because if that's the case that we do get a flashback, I think it would potentially be more realistic if we see a flashback and hold your horses of Anakin Skywalker. There have been, of course, reports that Hayden Christensen is coming back. I personally would love it. I don't want to get my hopes up. This is after Vader. So, of course, World Between Worlds, we could see Vader again. We could see Anakin. Um, I think bringing back Hayden, you'd have to see his face. Yeah, I don't think you'd bring back Hayden Christensen and put him in the helmet and say, "Hey, Hayden Christensen is back," because you could just use stand-in, which it's whatever. Voiceover wise, kind of like Kanan, I think you could do that. But if there's a flashback scene, I think Anakin would be heavily used. Or if they do kind of like a montage style and just kind of show like a bunch of people from the past that they're connected to at least. Um, which brings me to my last point on the world between worlds because I don't want to go too big into it. I think, well, two things. So sorry. First thing, I'll make it real quick. Ahsoka could use that to try and find Thrawn and Ezra. Um, I know that it's like the how does this work is still very much like undetermined and everything. Dave Filoni, of course, has made comments on it in the past. However, we still have to see because things can change. The episode where they first introduced it in Rebels was however many years ago. Um, so we'll see how that goes. But that could be how we find Thrawn and Ezra. The last part of the World Between Worlds. Many people are saying that Balon's skull and Shin Hati are from potentially the Great Jedi Purge. I could see it. It's fine. Um, my only thing is, I had a theory that they could be from somewhere between the High Republic and the Old Republic. Now let me explain. And sorry if you heard that. I'm sitting in my chair and I'm getting comfy because I am about to just unload my entire brain into this one. So their armor is very old school looking, in my opinion. It kind of looks very like not within the time period of the Clone Wars or the Republic, which granted, um, fashion seems to change in various parts of the galaxy within Star Wars, as many people in the Rebellion era had big old handlebar mustaches, and in the episode 1 through 3, the prequel trilogy, I don't think we saw a single facial hair accessory. Well, I'll just say like a mustache. You know what I'm saying. Anyways, um, but they look different, and I know that's gonna sound like, what are you talking about? They just look old school. Now we haven't seen old school in canon Star Wars. Now you, of course, the High Republic, but many of them were, the white and gold, the more, I'll say like classic Renaissance style, if you will. You know what I'm talking about if you've seen like any of the pictures of or covers of the High Republic comics or books or whatever. Um, but it looks again, it looks different. So my thoughts were that they could potentially, and stay with me here. Just hold on. It's not going to happen. I'm going to say this now. It's not going to happen. But I'm just saying this now. The lightsabers look very much like lightsabers that I've seen or that I remember seeing in the Knights of the Old Republic like video games. The Knights of the Old Republic is not canon. I understand. However, this could at the same time be a totally like, sorry if I'm looking away from my mic. I should talk in the mic. I'm looking around my room trying to think of how to phrase this. It would be a totally big way to do it with the world between worlds. I think it could be a perfect kind of gateway. You know, not the world between worlds being a literal gateway, but it would be a way to kind of introduce these two mysterious lightsaber wielders slash force users. Um, and with the dawn of the Jedi movie being set up, I think it was 25,000 years before the events of Episode 1. It could be a way to show that people from the past are coming to the present to try and help start an empire again, if they fell off a long time ago from the Jedi way. We see in the trailer there are lines going around the High Magistrate. I believe Morgan Elsbeth. I'll have to learn her name. But her and I believe Balon and Shin all together, which somewhat, if not very closely, look like star maps from the Knights of the Old Republic. And again, don't take this for 100%. This is what's going to happen. It's probably not going to happen, but just let me live. In the words of Freddie Mercury, "Let me live." You're welcome for that song. I hope I don't get copyright struck. But anyways, I'm thinking that they could potentially be protectors, either defected Jedi from back in the day, finding the world between worlds, coming up and wanting to start a new empire under Thrawn, or they could potentially be kind of like how the Jedi Guard or the Jedi Temple guards, they were there just to be, protectors of the Jedi Temple, of course. What if they had the same for the world between worlds, and this is just them trying to stop it? Now, it doesn't look that way, as they're just taking out a bunch of New Republic guards in the trailer. However, it's interesting to think that these people just found these lightsaber blades of this color, which could be corrupted, but don't seem to be corrupted, because usually whenever you corrupt a lightsaber, like we saw in Jedi Survivor, it would corrupt all the way red. So I mean, we could see. I know Ahsoka's lightsabers in the Ahsoka novel were, I believe they were. It was an Inquisitor lightsaber, bled from the red, and that's how Ahsoka got her gray or white or silver lightsabers. Um, so I mean, who knows? Who? That's why these speculations and theories are so, I don't want to say dangerous, but so like rabbit holey. So I'm gonna move on from the World Between Worlds. Next up, are we going to see Jason Syndulla? For those of you that don't know, Hera and Kanan, uh, they had a kiddo. They had a kiddo, and his name was Jason. If you watch the ending of Rebels, you'll see in the cockpit of the ship that's being flown by Hera, she looks down and sees a little dude sitting there. Um, they're flying around the Ghost, and they're just like looking at each other, being all happy after the Battle of Endor and the Empire being defeated, or so we think. So, and we see him with like his green hair, green eyebrows, which is a very interesting look. Um, and okay, so this is a big spoiler for those of you that don't like potential leaks due to marketing or anything. Just skip ahead a little bit. Warning: 3, 2, 1, 0. There was a Lego leak a little bit ago that had the Ghost. $170, by the way, ridiculous. But it had a whole bunch of people on the Ghost, a lot of potential new cast and everything. And then we see Jason Syndulla um, as one of the minifigures that come with the Lego. So this is leading to speculation that he's going to be in the show. Which, if that's the case, oh geez, how long will he be in the show? If he is at all, will he be like a little like a hey, I'm in the show, guys, and like go hide on like some other planet, or will he like kind of be a big deal? Um, will he be a will he be a reason that Hera has to think twice about going into combat with Ahsoka and all them to fight Thrawn or any other Empire remnant? Um, I said Revenant earlier. I just realized I meant to say Remnant. So if you heard that, I apologize. Um, but will he be a factor into what Hera does in the future regarding risking her life when she has a son that she has to worry about? Um, so that's something to think about. It's truly worrisome that anything would happen in that regard. But we'll see. We'll see. Next up, are we going to see Zeb? This, I think. So if you watched Mandalorian season 3, you see, uh, goodness, I still can't think of his name. He was speaking to one of the New Republic Rangers. Why can't I think of his name? I want to Google his name, just because I can't think at the moment. But we see at the I think it's middle of Mandalorian season 3, and we see him walk up to a bar talking to the ranger, and a lot of people at first were just kind of like, "Who's this dude?" And and that's just kind of like his first showing live action, and I think he looked really good. I thought he looked great. Um, I know a lot of people are kind of like, animated characters, if they look too weird or CGI has to be used, maybe we shouldn't. But I'm really thinking maybe they should. Carson Teva, that's his name. Oh my goodness, that evaded me for like 30, 40 minutes. Sorry if I just yelled in the mic and I broke your eardrums. But yeah, he was talking to Carson Teva at the bar, and it sounded perfect. Of course, animated wise, he's gonna have to change his voice to fit the live action motion cap or CGI or whatever they use. But he looked good. He sounded good. The lighting on him looked great. It didn't look too goofy. The facial hair looked good. Um, I think it could work. I don't know how it's gonna look like him running around, doing a lot of motion. We'll see. But yeah, I just really hope we see him. Whether or not it's like him just sitting in a X-wing. Sorry, my brain is fried. But him just sitting in the cockpit of a X-wing. I think Starfighter still would have worked. Whatever. Anyways, or just standing there, arms crossed, being like, "Hey, I'm Zeb." That was a horrible Zeb. But if we see him there, I think that it would be pretty cool. Um, and I think that it would be nice to have like a nice everyone get together. I know that a lot of people are against like, oh man, it's just rebels and all of them are gonna get together and that's the only reason we had the show. But like, I think it would be nice to have everyone come together, especially after losing Kanan. Um, you know, I think it'd be nice to finally just kind of have everyone together. Um, because if not, that might be very emotional. um, Next up, will Ezra be building a new lightsaber? Um, Again, I am pretty sure his. Well, no. I think he still had his lightsaber. I was gonna. I only asked this. Okay, let me ask a different question. Because I think back, but then I look at the picture in the trailer, and I'm pretty sure there's a lightsaber attached to his waistband. So if that's the case, do we think Hu Yang is making a lightsaber for anyone in the Ghost crew? And if so, who? I wouldn't think, because how, unless they got together at some point, would Sabine have Ezra's lightsaber? Or would she make her own lightsaber with her, Ahsoka, and Hu Yang coming together? That's a thought. I really hope I'm not missing something. Because it's been a minute, but but no, I think that's something to look into. Because unless I'm forgetting something, like he had a spare lightsaber. Because I know he got a different one, I believe. Because his blaster saber was bleh. The only thing I can think of is if no, Kanan had a man. Yeah, Kanan had a blue lightsaber, and in the trailer she had a green one, so it had to be Ezra's. So unless he made a new one, but okay, we're gonna move on. I said we're gonna be fast, but it's not moving fast, so we're gonna speed through it a little bit. The Bendu, will he be a part of the show? Um, I don't think so. I think he was a big part of the cosmic force becoming one of the force, with Kanan kind of building his arc, to be one with the like teaching him how to become one with the force. Maybe that could be a way that Kanan does communicate through the show. He might not be they've beaten Force Ghosts in a way with the flashbacks, which that's not like a slight on it or anything or how they create their storylines. Um, but they are able to do flashbacks to show people now rather than making everyone a Forced Ghost, which they didn't necessarily. I mean, they made Luke and Leia at the end of Episode 9, but I feel like that was very like understood as Yoda and Obi-Wan and Anakin. They all became Force Ghosts. So, Luke and Leia, after training and everything, it makes sense that somewhere along the 30-year gap, um, that they picked it up at some point. Um, but anyways, Bendu, I think there. I don't think there will be a mention. It would be cool. It would be really really cool. Um, but I don't think he will be. Um, so let's go ahead and move on to the next. AP5 and Chopper being the droids of the group. Will we see them? Chopper, of course, we're gonna see. That's obvious. AP5, however, the Alan Rickman sounding droid, the Snape, if you will. Uh, I I don't I don't know. I could see it. I could see him coming back. Um, I know that he's just kind of part of the rebellion now. Um, but I don't know if he's going to be like playing a big role. Like I know Hu Yang's being pushed as like I said, like the K2SO, the R2, like the companion droid of the show. Um, but I don't think AP5 will. Um, so let's move on to the next. Uh, Callus, the turncoat from the ISB with the sideburns. Um, I think I think it would be a big missed opportunity if they don't have Callus. I was very much against Callus at the beginning of Rebels, and then he turned Heart, and I was like, I don't know, uh, especially because of the whole Zeb family situation that went on. Uh, but at the same time, whenever he came back and like truly helped the rebels and everything, um, I really think that he could do a lot of good. Um, Helping out the rebels, having another human face if Zeb won't be able to be in as much because of animation. But we'll see. Um, because the ISB background, I just hope that he's not like a friend that they would kill off just to have a friend of the ghost crew get killed and be like, because he could be valuable to the Empire of the trying to resurge the Empire. Because of course the former ISB, you'd think that they'd have a price on his head. Um, After all this time, assuming he survives, because he goes with Zeb and sees his family, knowing that his family wasn't all wiped out as he originally thought. Um, so yeah, I think him and Zeb could possibly like work together or have some kind of like, hey, he said this or whatever. So that'd be fun to see. Excuse me. Um, I will just go through these real quick. Do I think that I have these written down? Sorry, so I'm just Mad Lib reading it real quick. Uh, Captain Rex and Wolf. Uh, I think we could see Rex. Flashback style or not, I think we could potentially see Rex. Now, at this point, they'd be old. They would be very old because they are, of course, the accelerated generating. Um, I'm trying to think where that would put them because they were made. Let's see, they were full troops in around 19 BBY. So let's just say that puts them around like 20 or 30, wherever that puts them. So 20 years. Oh man, I'm doing math on the spot. This is not good. I want to say that puts them around 50 or 60. Because 20 or 30, so 50 or 60. And that puts them at around uh, episode 4. And this takes place 9 BBY, 10 BBY. So add 10. So they would be around 70. They could make it. They could definitely make it. I really think, you know, I'm gonna say that I wouldn't doubt it because Tamora Morrison, he's still rocking it. He was in, spoiler alert, Mando season 3, he was voicing the clones. Uh, he did the voice of Boba Fett in Jedi Survivor. Which if you haven't been that, spoilers, I apologize, but I warned you. He was if you defeat all the bounties that Cage gives you, just do that if you haven't. But if so, you know what I'm talking about. Really cool cameo. The Book of Boba Fett, incredible. And I think that this could give him another chance to show off his acting chops, being really close with Ahsoka and whatnot. So we'll have to see how that goes. Uh, and the last one, like, will they return wise, that I was thinking about was Hondo Onaka. I he's just always whenever I think Clone Wars, I think Ahsoka, I think Hondo Onaka. Um, I believe canonically, he's still around. He's still vibing. I know he's at I believe he's at Galaxy's Edge. I think that's the whole one of the big things that he has going on right now. Or at least in the past. I haven't been, unfortunately. I really want to. But I'm pretty sure that he's still around this time period. It might be in the comics as well. Um, but I think that it's that he could potentially be in it. I don't necessarily think so. If anything, I think he would be in the new Skeleton Crew show. A bunch of young kids getting lost, from what it sounds like. I haven't seen the trailer that was leaked. I just hear a bunch of kids getting lost in space during the time of the resurgence of the First Order or the Empire. Um, and we know that Hondo has had history with children and being a pirate, of course, helping out. Just helping him out in the long run. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Hondo, I'm gonna say no for Ahsoka. If he does, that's awesome. It would be so cool. I'm waiting to see him. But I don't think he will be. Again, Skeleton Crew would possibly be a better fit. Um, but again, yeah, we'll just see. Uh, and finally, I just want to bring up for the last speculatory comment. That was a big word. Uh, who's this? Who's Merrick? Who's this Merrick? I'm gonna keep it short. I'm gonna keep it sweet because this one could be big. This one could be small. Uh, that's what she said. That's disgusting. I think that Merrick has potential to be like a big reveal, but personally, I don't think that's the case. If we already have a name, Merrick, which I don't know if it's like 100% confirmed, but that's why I'm seeing a lot of places post about. Again, the person all black looks like an inquisitor, most likely is an inquisitor. Um, some people are saying he's going to be Star Lord. I don't think he's going to be Star Lord. Star Lord. Oh gosh, we were just talking about Guardians of the Galaxy earlier. Star Killer from the old Force Unleashed games. Um, I don't think it's going to be him, purely based on I don't know if this is where they would have him, especially because he was under Vader's tutelage, which I guess technically he could show up here, but you know, I think he's better off staying as Legends. He's way too overpowered. Um, so that's just whatever. Some people are thinking it could be since Inquisitors, a lot of them were fallen Jedi or just people, whatever. I think Barris Offee would be a good shout. However, Barris Offee was a single lightsaber user. I know people can adapt to have the multi blade, whatever. Um, I just, I this would be cool. This would make sense. Because we never saw, at least from what I'm aware, at the end of Clone Wars, whenever or Clone Wars season 5, 4, 5, I believe 5. Barris Offee gets taken away from trying to bomb the Jedi Temple, or does bomb the Jedi Temple, or sets it up, gets taken away. We don't see her again. A lot of people were thinking she was the one that saved Grogu. There's been a lot of like, what happened, everything, blah blah blah. But some people think that it's that's her. Um, I don't. Again, I don't think it would be. I don't think it is, and that's solely based on one. Uh, the reports are saying that there's a person playing Merrick that is a male stunt person. Um, so you'd assume we'd probably see their face. Um, if it were a big reveal. It could be a cover name, and it could be someone completely not a male stunt performer. But of course, that's all I've seen. That's all I've tried. I didn't really even want to see it in the first place. Um, but I think that because her and Ahsoka were close throughout the Clone Wars, and then they split because she tried throwing Ahsoka under the bridge, and then could have caused her to turn to the dark side after being held in you know, the wherever they kept her, the dungeon. Um, but yeah, no, I think that'd be a cool idea. It could also just be, and this is probably what it's gonna be, and I'd be fine with it either way. It could just be a completely new character, just an Inquisitor that's lasted this whole time. Um, if that's the case, cool. Um, because I know people just want connections, which that's understood because connections are cool and everything. But at the same time, if the story doesn't work out, or if the storytellers just want to go in a different direction, that's it, and that's we got to move on. So yeah, those are the speculations. That's so silly of me to say. So silly. I'm so tired. But yeah, that's the speculation area of this video, and here comes the outro. Well, that looks like it's gonna do it for this episode. Once again, if you listen all the way through this episode, I really want to thank and show my appreciation to you for listening. This is my first podcast, my first episode of a podcast. I've wanted to do this for a long time. Uh, Again, just never knew how to start. The intro to this video I took like 47, not joking, 47 times, just because I felt very nervous and not sure how if I was doing it right. I was about to stop. I just told myself to push through, stare at the corner of the ceiling in my room, and just move forward. And that's what I did. So here we are. If you have anything you'd like to comment, let me know about performance wise. If there were any like mic issues, if anything could sound better, whatever. I'd appreciate all of it. Sorry. But yeah, I had a really fun time doing this. It was very fun to get all this out of my system. I really hope I can find, one of you that enjoys Star Wars as much as I do, that just wants someone to listen to. And if so, that's awesome. And if not, that's okay. And I could just be talking to like one person or no one at all. And that's that's sad, but it's fine because this has been some therapy that I've needed probably for a long time, so it's fine. But anyways, thank you so very much for listening. If you did, if you'd like to leave a like, if you'd like to leave a comment, again, constructive criticism, feedback would be very much appreciated, so I can improve. In case you do want to stick around, listen to more. I'd love to talk all Star Wars all the time. So yeah, just leave me your comments. Tell me what you think of all the Ahsoka news. This is what you should be expecting from Ahsoka, is what this episode covered. Again, any questions, comments, concerns, feedback, criticism, love, support, hatred, dismay, anything at all, leave it down below. Hit subscribe if you don't care. If you do care, I'm sorry. Yeah. This has been Jonathan Steelflex with Star Wars with Steelflex. Steelflex out.